Welcome for another edition of Drive-By Politics. We're here today with Mr. Jim Brown. Jim is a former Louisiana Secretary of State and is currently a radio talk show host and does several things in the political realm. Mr. Brown, I know you've been watching Governor Jindal'S moves here regarding the presidential aspirations, etc. What do you think about his speech next Tuesday night?
Going to be a lot of pressure on Governor Jindal, and it's going to be interesting to see what tact that he takes when he makes his speech. I think he's got a big challenge ahead. He's drawn the line in the sand when it comes to this stimulus package involving the president. The president is so much for. Jindal is saying he would have voted against it in Congress, and he may not take some of the money. And so he's raising the air of a number of folks back home who feel like Louisiana is in dire straits and needs all the money he can get. And so will he talk about Louisiana, which he has done on many national speeches, ballyhooing all that he's done here in the state, or will he take a more national approach and take on the president on this stimulus package? And so it could be a defining moment for where his campaign is going if he does have national aspirations. Most of us here in Louisiana think he does have national aspirations. That's why he's traveling all over the country. Seems like every weekend he's some different part of it. Where does he go? And if he's not careful, I'm afraid he's going to box himself in. It's very early in a national campaign to be taking on the president and drawing such fine lines. The fact that he's against the stimulus package, he would have voted against it, because whether he likes it or not, I think virtually all the money that has been allocated for Louisiana is going to come to Louisiana. Under the provision of the legislature can go above the governor's head and actually take the money. They can pass a resolution saying we want the federal money, and therefore the governor can't veto what they do. And so he doesn't want to see his own legislative delegation in Louisiana override him. Pretty hard to tell a legislator in New Orleans or up in Shreveport, where there's money for I-49 or money to help the redevelopment of New Orleans, look, you got to stand aside and let the governor turn this money down. And so there's some tough choices for the legislature, and there's a real fine line the governor's drawing. And I think he's got to be very, very careful. He's walking on thin ice right here. He gets too firm in his positions. He's defining himself awfully early, and it may come back and bite him in the years to come in his national aspirations. And by drawing that fine line and taking on the president, I'm not sure he's helping himself back here in Louisiana. So interesting challenge for Bobby Jindal. He's juggling a lot of balls, and I think we'll see a lot by Tuesday night. It may be a demarcation line as to how successful he'll be here in the future. And so it's a very murky area. Jindal's walking on quicksand right now. He's gotten by with great national publicity, and he's very popular back home. But if he doesn't handle this speech next Tuesday and how he deals with this federal money in the next few weeks, if he doesn't handle this right, it could be a point where his popularity kind of wanes. So political observers are going to be watching very, very closely next Tuesday night. I'm going to pass up the Mardi Gras parades and see what the governor has to say. They'll be watching how he deals with the legislature, because we have a legislative session that is right on us here in the next month or two. And so that's when the rubber meets the road, and that's when we're going to see whether Jindal stays very firm in his decision not to take some of that federal money. And if he does, well, the legislature go ahead and override him. I think if he turns much of it down, the legislature is going to override him. So it's going to be a real interesting confrontation that we could be seeing here in the next month or two. The other problem that Bobby Jindal has, I think, is that he's got to have a track record back home. You can't be at the bottom of the barrel in virtually every national issue or list that's been made involving education, health care. We have the highest insurance rates in America. There are so many things that are holding our people down. And Jindal's got to do more than just talk about philosophy. He's got to do some hands-on problem solving. He's going to have to show some results. He's got to be result-oriented. And the only thing I'm concerned about right now is that in his national efforts, it's a philosophical campaign where he's talking about the philosophy of government. But I think people back home want some very specific results. And I think he's capable of doing it. He's shown he has in the past. But I think he's going to have to roll up his sleeves and get very specific in terms of, so 4 years from now, he said, look, let me tell you the 15 things I did to improve the quality of life in Louisiana. And right now, I can't name those things. It's still early in his tenure as governor, but he's got to have a list to point to. I think he's got to do a lot of more practical, hands-on governing of the state of Louisiana if he has any national aspirations at all.
Thanks for being with us today, Jim.
Enjoyed being with you, talking to all your viewers.